Welcome, everybody, to Into the Fire, live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is May the 3rd, 2024. My daughter's 19th birthday today. So it's big time. I know. Can you believe it? 19 years old. It's insane. We've got a great guest tonight. It's going to be Brittany Frederick's, probably the number one super fan. I'm telling you this, thank you for that. I'm telling you right now, the number one super fan, and there's a lot of them to choose from, but this young lady, she knows all of the details about this show and a lot of other shows. Actually, she's going to be a lot of fun. So tell me about what's been going on in your week, Ronnie.
I actually took off work this week. As you know, on Monday, I'm going to be coming back to Detective Division and working basically as a civilian cold case detective. So I start that Monday. So I've been doing some yard work, cleaning up the pool, doing some yoga, doing some bike rides. But yeah, just kind of chilling, taking it easy this week and ready to get back at it next week.
Good. How about you? We're super looking forward to having you back. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be like my little buddies back in the house. And you know.
You guys got slammed this past weekend.
Well, I really didn't because I was actually in Indiana, or I was in Idaho, rather. My week has been really busy. Saturday night, I actually spoke. Go ahead and throw that up, Amanda. I spoke. You can see that myself, Detective Lacey Lansdowne, and Detective Reggie Warren, that were there. We are right there. And we actually, all three of us played a role at the awards banquet for the Baltimore. Man, my mind is everywhere. Baltimore. I've spoke there too, but the Bartlesville Police Department, and that's going to be for Idaho. I actually did speak in Idaho also, but we spoke. Reggie sang. If I had a vote, he would have made it to Hollywood because he's just awesome. And he can sing like no other. Seriously, he's great. And then the second thing that I did is and Lacey spoke because there was a really neat award. Thank you for being here, Kathleen. We always like to see you, Sally, the regulars, the OGs. But anyway, so Lacey ended up speaking on behalf of her mother because her mother has an award. Yeah, her mother has an award that was named in her name, and it goes to one special officer each year, which basically is the Officer of the Year. And that was really, really special. And then I spoke for about 35 to 40 minutes, and I was the keynote speaker, and I told them about, I was basically talking about all kinds of things death related. And then I flew off to the next morning on Sunday. I flew off to Boise, Idaho. That's a picture there. And then throw up that one with the huge crowd. You can see 400 people in Boise, Idaho. And it was people that were attending this conference that were from all over the country. But the predominant ones were from Washington State, Oregon, Idaho, Montana. There was a couple from Alaska that I was actually sitting with. They were from Juneau, Alaska, and they cover their patrol area. They have like 65 cops, and they patrol an area of like 3,000 square miles. Can you imagine?
That's crazy.
But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Great group of people. That was for the Western States Hostage Negotiation Association. And so I was honored to be there. In a few weeks, I'll be heading off to New York again for Rochester, New York. The Rock is what I've learned that's what they call it. But look, a lot of things happening. A lot of things happening for both Ronnie and I. It's exciting times. And I'd heard from somewhere. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. We're ranked number 6 as far as KGRA Digital Broadcasting, as far as all of the shows that they have here, and they have shows for all 7 days of the week. And Ronnie and I are number 6, which I think is pretty impressive. But those that are listening, guess what? Tell your friends and family, because 6 isn't going to work for us. We want to be, we'd like to be number 1. Yeah, number 1. And we'd like to do that here shortly because we're very impatient people, and we like to be the winners. So anyway, all right. There's a lot of great shows to choose from of different genres, etc. But number 6 is cool. And I agree with Sally. It is awesome, especially since we're brand new and we're still ironing things out. Okay, busy week in Tulsa this week. We had 5 murders that happened throughout the week. A very, very tragic one It was a lady by the name of Myrna, who was a beloved person that worked at the Tulsa County Courthouse for a long, long time. And Myrna was basically tragically killed by her neighbor. And before I left for Idaho, actually, before I left last week, I see her. I'd almost see her every evening if I'm up there working late, and she'd be dropping stuff off. She was like the person that she'd always talk to us. She loved the First 48. She always would stop and visit with us just to see how we were doing, and she always brought a smile to my face. And I think she had that effect on everybody. So it's really, really really tragic. I wanted to make mention of her. And
yeah, Mikey, if I can say a couple things about her too as well, Jason. Mikey, I talked to him the other day, and he was telling me about it, and it shocked me because I can't remember. It was probably 2 weeks ago now. I was riding my bike down Riverside, and every time I saw her, wherever it was, at the station, at the courthouse, out and about, she would be like, "Hey, Ronnie Ron. Hey, Ronnie Ron, what's up?" And she's known me for almost going on 25 years from when I first got on. And so I'm flying by on my bike, and I see her, and she notices me on my bike and hollers at me. So I turn around and said something to her and her friend. And then I got to my turnaround point and went back by, and just joking with her and her friend, I'm like, "Hey, you guys need to pick up the pace," because they were out there walking, getting some exercise. But yeah, she was always super nice, always had a smile on her face. And it really surprised me when I heard that.
Yeah.
Just crazy situation.
Yeah. I mean, there's some of these murders that I think that Ronnie and I both, you kind of understand that there's a lifestyle that people are living, and there's a risky lifestyle. Myrna wasn't that person. Myrna was one of the sweetest, almost makes me tear up a little bit thinking about it, but she's one of the sweetest people that I can think of when I think of the courthouse, or really anywhere for that matter. So we lost a very, very good person in our world, and heaven gained one, believe me. And anyway, so let's move on. Let's talk about this great guest that we've got coming up. I am excited to have her here because she writes some of the most extraordinary articles about Ronnie, myself, people from Atlanta. You name the city, at Mobile. She is just an absolute super fan. So let me introduce her. Brittany Frederick is an award-winning journalist for nearly 24 years. She began her career earning the highest student arts distinction in California at the age of 14. Thought she was going to be a district attorney at 15, and now runs tvbrittanyf.com, and we'll make sure we put that up for you. And she also hosts the podcast Motivate with Brittany Frederick. I actually was a guest on that. It is amazing. It's an amazing podcast, so I highly recommend it. She is an authority on true crime and crime procedurals, well known for her coverage of A&E's The First 48, and she holds a degree in administration of justice and a minor in criminology, having tested with both the LAPD Reserve and the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. That's awesome. Let's welcome Brittany Frederick.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, she's like a stick of dynamite, and her presence is felt. And we're so happy to have you here. We really are. You're fantastic, and it's going to be nice to dive in and see what you're all about.
Well, I was honored to be asked. It's funny, every time I have to talk about myself and somebody runs off that list like you just did, I always stop and go, what have I done with my life? Like, you just listen to it and you just go, that sounds weird and complicated.
Well, you're a writer. That's your main thing, right? You write it, yeah. And when you write articles, you started writing articles about our unit. That's how we got introduced to you.
Yeah.
And so we would start hearing about this stuff, and then you write these great things, and you kind of make us superheroes and things like that. And I have to tell you, we as detectives, I don't know even if a detective doesn't reach out to you and says, "Oh, that was really cool and awesome," they really mean it, because if they like it. I don't care what they say. They like reading stuff about themselves. So how did all that get started?
I always gravitate toward things that I'm passionate about, causes that I'm passionate about, finding a way to platform that, finding a way to contribute to that conversation. And so, having been a fan of the show for ages, it was something that actually I did on my website just as a hobby. And then when I came to CBR, I had a very great editor, Lizette, And she said, well, we really need some content. What are you into? And I said, oh, I really enjoy, the first 48. And I'm really passionate in particular about the work that's being done out in Tulsa. I'd love to get these people some more deserved attention. And bless her, she said, I have no idea what you're talking about, but go ahead, show me what you got. And I wrote the first article that we did, which was basically about how the longevity of your unit being on the show we're coming up on a decade now, I think it is, thereabouts.
Isn't that
And
crazy?
we read it, and the response to it was fantastic. And that's actually what got me introduced to your colleague, Chase Calhoun, who, reached out to me, and I made the comment. I said, yeah, it kind of makes me want to hang out in Tulsa. And he's like, oh, you should, and you should come by. And I was like, wait, you're not kidding. And so that just kind of steamrolled the whole thing. Once I realized that what I was saying was actually raising awareness of the work that you're doing and the work that other departments are doing, it was like, why not keep doing it?
Yeah.
How many articles have you written about Tulsa, do you think?
A lot. The problem is I've run out of people to talk about, so we are now delving into specific episodes of things, which is, I'm actually going back into episodes that I particularly enjoyed for one reason or another. I finally did the House of Cards rant that I've been threatening to have for about 2 years, and it's just different ideas that pop in my head, because coming from a criminology background and also sociology, I took a lot of sociology in college. The more you watch the show, the more certain themes, certain ideas would pop in my head. And so it's just, I just sit down and go, what's the next thing that I haven't talked about, or the next person that I haven't talked about who needs a little bit of a platform? And you just kind of go from there.
Yeah. And Ronnie, actually, she wrote an article about this show, Into the Fire.
Okay.
And she actually published that. And what was that site that got published on?
That is Fangirlish. That is actually where Lizzie moved to. When she left CBR, she runs that site with Aaron, who's a good friend of hers. And so they called me and said, hey, if you need something else to do, we'd love to have you back. And I said, well, you know what comes with that, right? Like, this is a non-negotiable thing that's going to happen. And she was like, I don't care. If you're passionate about it, keep doing it. So
good.
They've been on board and promoting you guys and any other, detectives that I can platform. They've been very sweet in joining my cause.
Yeah, I would definitely call you you're like the unofficial official. Would we call you a publicist? What would be the right term for that?
Like the historian almost of it.
Yeah.
It's almost like a historian of the show.
Yeah, because I could ask you about an episode right now, like Ringside Seat. What was that about?
Actually, believe it or not, I think it's on TV like an hour ago. I didn't have time to catch it because I've just been coming off my job. But I'm not kidding you. It's on tonight. It's either an hour ago or an hour after this. And ironically,
what am I telling you?
You were the first Tulsa detective ever introduced on the first 48 because that was your case.
Yep, I'll probably be the last one still working too when it's all said and done. When the walls come down on the building. But anyway, no, that's right. So what
motel on Admiral?
Have you? How many cities have you written about?
Atlanta, Tulsa, Mobile. I haven't done a lot of the older cities because there was a period where I hadn't caught up on the show. I missed a couple of years. I came back when Tulsa and Atlanta came on. So I want to do some more stuff with Mobile. It's just frustrating because, unfortunately, right now that doesn't help them because they're no longer on the show. Yeah. So it's kind of, in a sense, yelling into a void at that point. But that's not going to stop me, I think, from making sure that those guys get their due attention because they're still doing great work. It's just not on TV. But
you're absolutely right. Not only do you write, but you actually are an avid fan of IndyCar racing. And what's that? I mean, you've ridden in the cars. Have you ridden in them? There's Mario Andretti. It's not like just anybody gets to meet him.
I think it's now classified as a hobby. There's a very roundabout story to that. Another big mantra in my career is I try to say yes to as many opportunities as I can. I don't believe in putting myself in a lane. I've had a lot of people tell me in my career, you need to just do one thing. And I'm like, why? Like, I don't see the point in limiting yourself in that way. So I had one of my great friends is an actor by the name of Michael Trucco. You probably know him from the remake of Battlestar Galactica. He's on Fire Country right now. He and a friend of mine named Rutledge Wood were doing the pro celebrity race in Long Beach as part of the Grand Prix of Long Beach. And I said, hey, those are my friends. That's only about an hour and a half from here. I'm going to come up and support them. But since I was there, I reached out to their PR team and said, hey, I have experience in this field. Put me to work. What can I do to help promote the event, help promote what's going on? Worked with them, had a great time. And their lead publicist pulled me aside and said, hey, listen, we think the real race car drivers would really like you. You should go over and talk to some of these IndyCar guys. And I'm like, that's really funny. Like, let's not make that joke. And it turned out, no, I actually fit right in. And so from going to the celebrity race, I started to go to IndyCar races, and I spent about 10 years on and off in the paddock working with the IndyCar teams. That's what made me a huge fan of some of these drivers. My very first interview, this is the funniest thing, was Scott Dixon. And at that point, he already had 4 of his 6 IndyCar championships. He'd already won the Indy 500. And they said, oh, yeah, we've got him for you. And I'm like, this is a joke, right? Like, I literally don't have any qualification to be in this conversation. They're like, no, he's willing to talk to you. And we went and we had a great interview, and we've done a couple. And it just really impressed me that someone of his caliber was willing to talk to somebody who had 0 qualification to be in the room. And it started.
Is that Laguna Seca? Is that track?
No, Laguna is actually closer to like Salinas and Monterey. Long Beach is a little further south, but it's the premier street race in IndyCar. So we're very lucky to basically have that in my backyard.
And Scott has already won a race this year, right?
Yes, Scott won at Long Beach. I tell you, it was the scariest, like 30-something odd minutes of my life, that last 34 laps, because he was having to save fuel, save tires, and stretched it for 34 laps. And I'm just sitting up in Grandstand 16 going, please, Lord, there's got to be a way that this works. And we're all going, I don't think it does. And lo and behold, he pulled it off. So it was really awesome to see him win in person.
So we talked briefly before we got on the air. Sorry, Jason. So I'm a big Formula One fan. I do really like Indy, but I haven't got into it like I have with Formula One. What's the beef between the fans of those?
I don't know if it's like an actual beef. It seems like it's 2 completely different types of racing, and then sometimes there become these arguments between the 2 sides. It's kind of like IndyCar and NASCAR. Yeah. Everybody's got their preferred type of racing, and people argue over it. Formula One is very much geared toward the engineering of the cars. We're a spec series. F1's got a lot more glitz and glamour to it. IndyCar we just kind of show up, do the job, do the race, and we kind of fly under the radar a little bit. The joke there was for a while was that, you can be someone like a Scott Dixon and still just walk down the street. Nobody knows who you are, which is kind of the reason I'm attracted to it. I'm very much the same way. Like, when Jason told me he wanted me to do this show, I remember, I think I said it to you. I said, oh yeah, that would be really fun. But, you're not serious, right? Again, you'll see a theme here of me just not believing anything that actually happens to me. And then it was like, wait a minute. No, I am sort of cool enough to be on this show. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm always that person who kind of flies under the radar. And so I think that's another reason I really just love working with the IndyCar guys, because they're all very down to earth and very dedicated to what they do. And that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
Are you going to the race this year, Jason, back in Iowa?
Oh, I don't know. I really want to, but the fact of the matter is that my schedule has just been so stupid busy that I don't know. I haven't ultimately made my decision, and it's, I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic time. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to do everything that I can to try, but, and it has nothing to do with, Hy-Vee's great. I'm going to mention Hy-Vee. Yeah. I wish we had a Hy-Vee here in Oklahoma, because do you have Hy-Vees? No, you don't have Hy-Vees.
We do not.
You probably have Safeways and Luckies and stuff like that. Do you have Luckies out there still?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but you have different kinds, and we have. But anyway, Hy-Vee needs to come to Tulsa, because they're awesome. So let me ask you, who's your favorite detective and why?
Oh yeah, that's a loaded question. With 2 of them sitting in the room right now. It's funny because the answer to that, I think, changes. One of the things that I have noticed, once you start comparing departments, comparing people, and really digging into who people are, what makes them successful, is everybody has a strength. Jason, you and I talked about this in Tulsa. One of the great things that your unit does well is knowing what everybody's strength is and then putting those pieces together in the correct order. So my answer is always very contextual to, like, in what way? Like, from a purely entertainment perspective, I don't think you get any better than any episode with Justin Ritter in it. I mean, whether he knows it or not, that man is a walking source of levity at all times. There are certain detectives that I think are brilliant in interviewing. I mean, Jason, you're one of them. Kevin Leonpacker out in Atlanta, I always admired the way that he was able to interrogate suspects. You go out to Mobile, I was, because he's no longer with the department, a huge fan of Glenn Barton, just to watch the way he always seemed like every day was the best day ever. And I'm sitting at home going, I had a hard time getting out of bed today. Like, I don't know how this guy does this.
Yeah.
So I admire so many of them for so many different reasons. And I think that's why that's important to me to do what I do, because, you know, there's such a negative stigma that surrounds law enforcement in general. And a lot of that is based on stereotypes and people not really being informed. And so if I can come out and say, hey, these are examples of people in this field that are good people, that are people that you can look up to, and this is why things work the way they work, it helps me to counteract that, to say I'm doing something to kind of educate people and kind of say you can't lump everybody into one sort of faceless institution and generalize it like that. So yeah, there's a lot of good people out there. I don't think I could give you just one on any given day.
And I think we've talked about this several times. I can speak for me, obviously, personally. I think Jason, for the most part, too, we have hardly ever had a negative interaction because of that show. It has always been positive. And I mean, Jason and I haven't been all over the country like he has doing work, but the times him and I traveled from multiple states, I mean, people were coming up to us in the airports, taxi drivers, Uber drivers, whatever, people, everywhere we went, it was always a positive thing. And that's something I just like to say as often as I can for people thinking about the police, but specifically with that show, is that it shows that, you know, what we do and that we're doing it for good reasons and stuff like that. And so I just think it's put a great light on Tulsa and the other cities as well.
Yeah, I
and
agree
what's
with that.
important about it, and I think this is an article in the making, it's one of the many, I have a board and I have a list of sort of developing ideas, is the way in which it's presented. You know, especially with the explosion of true crime in the last 10, 15 years, a lot of that is very sensationalized, or it's a very specific dark tone to it. With the first 48, what I love is they're not trying to manipulate that storyline. They're not trying to make it look cool. They're not trying to make it look gritty. It's just, here's what it is, and we're going to let the detectives and the cases tell their own story. And that's important. I think it's really important to just let it be what it is and not try to make it entertainment. I mean, it is entertaining, but that's because people like you make it entertaining and the stories are compelling. You speak for yourselves.
Yeah, I think, you know, I got to tell you, I got to throw in, of the people that watch us when I go through airports, tons of flight attendants and tons of pilots, because they're on the road all the time and they probably hit that hotel room and throw whatever on, and they're like avid watchers. Wouldn't you agree, Ronnie? I can't tell you how many freaking pilots.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. And that, I think that maybe the last trip you and I took together there was that pilot in, I can't remember now if it was Colorado or Chicago or St. Louis, somewhere. That pilot came up to us and was talking to us. And along those same lines of what you're saying, Brittany, I think it needs to be said as much as we can. And how you're saying the show is presented, if people don't realize that there's one or two camera people with us that do everything. I mean, if they're the audio guy, the audio girl, the video, they do it all, then they put it together and stuff gets sent off. But yeah, it's not a big production like what you were kind of hinting at with some of these other shows, and especially just the, you know, like the sitcom, or not sitcoms, but the dramas on TV. So yeah, it's right there with us, and they're there, and it's just one person riding around with us.
And Brittany, I'm full of ideas. Me and Ronnie used to have a think tank as we're driving down the road, right? So this is my idea for one of your articles. You can put this on your board. Basically, the power of a show like this in building relationships within communities. And I am shocked, literally shocked, that there are not. That's a great picture. Oh, that's me. Never mind. No, they're and for the record, that's Amanda's doing, but I loved it. But no, literally, for the record, these people, I'm surprised that there's not cities that are jumping over themselves to be a part of this show, because this has literally, it builds bridges within the community more so than anybody could ever imagine. It's so much. I don't know of any negatives about it. As a matter of fact, Ronnie and we used to always go, I can't believe, are they signing after this first year? We thought that it would be a 1 year and that's it. We didn't even imagine that this thing would be around for 10 years. But it's just like today. I mean, there's people that you would never think in a million years would be putting their hand out to shake our hand. And in large part, I think a lot of that has to do with people like yourself, Brittany, that are taking time out of your life to actually write articles, making us and just talking about what it is that we're doing. And I love that. But really, I wish that more cities would actually recognize the benefit of being a part of something like this. And I don't get paid to say any of this. I mean, it's just the reality. It's common sense, really. It's just common sense. And in today's day and age, where we need to have good things being said about the cops, somebody said it earlier in a comment that, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it had something to do with, we really need to look at the people that are the real heroes in this country. And I'm not saying Ronnie and myself, I'm just saying there's a ton of cops out here. I think we put a little bit too much emphasis on movie stars and just people
athletes.
that really do what?
And athletes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Celebrities shouldn't be what people are deciding life decisions about. And I feel like that happens way too often.
It really does. So what do you think? What do you think, Brittany? And you don't have to agree with this. I want to hear your real opinion.
No, I mean, I will tell you sort of an interesting story. I have a firsthand experience in the ways that media can actually have a positive impact on people. I could tell you countless stories of things in my career, or the one I always go back to is my Jonathan Groff story. The reason that, that's my hero, even though he just got a second Tony nomination, to Ronnie's point, he's an incredible actor, is the role that he played in Mindhunter, because he played a character so close to the mental health struggles that I was going through. Seeing it in that lens then led me to say, wait a second, I finally understand what's going on in my head and make changes in my life that were beneficial to me. And I can say that to different degrees about a lot of things. So I have a lot of experience in saying, you may not understand it if it's said to you in a CNN headline or in the mainstream media, but somehow, sometimes putting something in a TV show and packaging it that way, you can reach a lot of people and you can do a lot of good. Mm-hmm. And I really, in particular, love this show because we need to see that there are real life heroes out there. There are so many negative headlines every day. I mean, I get up every morning and I read the news and I read the entertainment news, and it can depress you. And so when I can get on a soapbox for people like yourselves that are doing real good in the world, it not only makes me happy to be able to support you, but it makes me happy to put something out there that's a positive headline, to put something out there that hopefully will affect somebody the way that I was affected, or just make their day a little bit better.
And I think you have, from my personal experience along these same lines, is the interactions I've had with people are from all walks of life. And I've probably talked about this before on here, but I mean, male, female, white, black, Hispanic, I mean, all races, everything. There's been rich, poor, and everyone in between have come up, and it's crazy to me how many people watch that show and just the different segments of society that it touches. And so I think that the stuff you're saying and the stuff you've done is just expanded that even more. So it's great to get that out there.
I have to say, and shout out to Ronnie, to your point earlier about the crew that you work with, shout out to Beth, because I had the moment that everything hit me was when I showed up, because Jason, you knew I was coming because I had told you, and I don't know how many other people knew. Maybe you can clarify on that one for me, but I walked into that room not expecting what the reaction was going to be, nervous as hell, because I'm like, I have looked up to you guys for so many years, and I walk in and bless her, she's looking at me like I am the greatest thing since sliced bread. And all of you were that excited when I walked into the room, and I have never had a reaction like that walking into a room ever. And that's when it hit me, the impact of what I was doing. When I was realizing, wait a minute, I can see it in the reactions that you're giving me, the impact that what I have done has meant to you guys after all that you guys have given to your community and to those of us watching at home. And I got emotional for a minute. I was like, hold on, like I need a minute to process that I can do something that powerful. And then I went back to freaking out, but I needed about 30 seconds to just take it in.
Yeah, and we gave you a thorough tour up there at the office, and that's something that we have the option, or we have the opportunity to do from time to time, which is always a lot of fun. I'm kind of like the unofficial / I think I'm more of the official tour guide at this point. I think I'm the official tour guide. So I give the tours, but you got the definitely the royal treatment when you came, and we really appreciate everything that you do, and I can't say it enough. And Steph, thank you for being here. You said that you love us here in Tulsa, and she's another one. Steph Sherrod that's on here watching, that says incredible things about us all the time and is always putting nice photos and stuff up us about on Facebook, and just a huge supporter of really the First 48 and the police and the detectives, and that means a lot to us. It really does. I can't say it enough. We're living in a time that, one day I'm going to be retired and look out the world, because I actually have a lot of opinions, but I have to be refrained, and I can't really say what my opinions are at this point. But I think I'm gonna blow some people's minds whenever I do retire. There's going to be a lot of truth that's going to be coming out of my mouth, I can promise you. But anyway, but for right now, we're just going to be nice.
No,
So
no one wants to hear what I have to say about a lot of things. I mean, that's the joke is, if I ever write a book, the title of it's going to be Stupid Things That I've Said in Front of Famous People. And that's just going to be the context of the entire book, is every stupid thing I've ever said in an interaction with someone more interesting than me.
Well, first of all, I love the title of that book. And actually, that's a great question. Are you ever going to write a book? And I mean, seriously, is that something you've considered?
Numerous people have said it. And I go back and forth on it, because I have had a lot of really great interactions with people. And it goes back to what my core mission is, which is I like to platform those positive interactions and those people that maybe I can give some attention to who deserve it. And so I look at it that way and say, well, if me telling my story helps those people, I'll think about it. And then I start writing. And I start writing down the things that I've done and the interactions that I've had. And then I just feel so arrogant, because I just go back to, no one wants to read this. You are not an athlete. You are not a celebrity. You are not that important. And please shut up. And I just kind of I can't get past the first chapters. I start writing, and then I don't feel important enough to do it. So maybe one of these days, but I do make a point of cataloging with my Instagram and my social media when those moments happen, at least so I can remember those and appreciate those for what they are. But
have you visited any other of the cities that are on First 48 and took a tour?
I have not. I need to get back to Tulsa. Jason brought up a good point with me when you were on my show. I need to go back to Tulsa because I need to do a ride along one of these days. And I'm trying to figure it out schedule wise to get back and see you guys again. But, with you being on the road and me being on the road, I'm trying to figure out how that will work. I wanted to go through Atlanta actually just before I saw you guys, because I was flying Delta, and Delta keeps trying to route everything through Atlanta. So I just thought, I'll just go through Atlanta. I couldn't get that to work. They ghosted me on that one, so I wasn't able to do that. I wanted to some point hit Mobile, and now they're not on the show anymore, so that made me sad. But no, you guys are special in and of yourselves. And I actually ended up spending more time in Tulsa, which got really weird, because to Nate Schilling's point, you start driving around and you're like, I remember this. I saw this in that episode 5 years ago. I don't know if I should be on this street right now. It's like,
well, let me ask you this: out of all the episodes that you've seen, and you've probably seen every one on the show, honestly. And of all of the episodes that you've seen, what is your absolute favorite?
I keep going back to Chain of Death, because if it's a 2-hour episode, there's a reason it's a 2-hour episode. And the way that all of you came together on that, and the way it was one of those episodes where I said to myself, if I didn't know I was watching a true crime show, I would think somebody made this up. It was a show that, to me as a screenwriter, because my background originally in high school was in screenwriting, I went, this would make great scripted drama, but it's a real thing. And by the time we got to the end of that episode and realized that, you guys had, actually, was it the feds that caught Larry Douglas? Whatever it was, the resolution of that, I was actually in my house on my couch overjoyed. That's when it's a great episode, when you're like, you actually get sucked into the emotion of it.
When you said
nothing to do with it.
Well, Ronnie, when she says Chain of Death, that really didn't mean anything to me, because we knew that episode as Cancel Thanksgiving. And that was kind of the name that they'd given that. And then oftentimes they switch it to something else. And so when you say that, I thought you were talking about a completely different case until you said Larry Douglas. And I was like, holy cow. Because Ronnie and I, we worked a ton on that case. That was we all did. There's a lot of people running on that one.
A lot of people did. And I will say, I'm the one who got to handcuff Larry at that traffic stop. Yeah. And I asked, he's on the ground. I wasn't in the cop car, but they pulled him over, and then I walked up, and he's on the ground. I went up and handcuffed him, and I'm like, hey, what's your name? And he just looked up at me, and he's like, you know who I am. And I'm like, okay, Larry, come on, let's go. And, then it went from there. But yeah, that was a crazy case.
It was
Because
a
we were out
crazy
on
case.
another murder when that one happened. You remember we were over there on 10th and St. Louis on that search warrant where the bug fell on you and you went outside. And then Z got that one out east.
Yeah, thank God we got the one out east because I wanted to get the heck out of that other place. I don't do roaches or rodents. I don't do any bugs, and Ronnie knows this. But it was terrible. But yeah, so that's an interesting case, and I'm glad to hear you say that because it's not the norm that I normally hear, and that is a very, very good case. There was a tremendous amount of work that went into that, and I think that's what people get when they watch the first 48 is they see a real life glimpse as to how hard we work for these victims, no matter whatever their socioeconomic background is, etc. We don't care. We just want to solve the case. We want to catch the bad people and put them away. So.
And what's really funny, if you watch the show long enough, because I don't know if either of you are into watching yourselves on TV, but if you watch a show long enough, and I'm sure some of your listeners will agree with me here, you recognize people's names and faces. And so I would used to count heads at the beginning of every episode, even though we know that they air them out of order. Thank you, Ronnie, for pointing that out to us by showing up again after you've retired. But I would count heads. And I would freak out. Actually, this happened to me when you left the unit originally going, I don't see Ronnie in the background. Did he leave? Is it his week off? Is he on vacation? Wait, did he get promoted? Did he leave? Same thing with Justin, because they didn't acknowledge him leaving the unit specifically. Yeah. It was just some episode where it was like, oh, newly promoted Corporal Justin Ritter is supervising the crime scene. I think it was Reggie's first case, actually, as a featured detective. And I just went, when did that? And so it's really funny because I'll start counting heads in the background. Or noticing people's job titles change and getting excited about it. I've told this story. I thought Nathan Schilling got promoted. I didn't realize they just changed his title. I thought he got promoted. I celebrated in my living room. No one understood why. And then I found out later, wait, that's not a real promotion. It's just a different title.
Yeah. Well, I think Nathan thinks it's a real promotion, but we still don't really respect that title much. So, but we just kind of do our thing.
I think actually Nathan said that promotion cost him money because he had to go change all his name tags and get his uniforms fixed. And
whatever.
He just got a new title but no extra money.
Oh, please. He was walking around his house having his wife call him Sergeant. Don't make any mistake about that. I already know better.
My when I was getting my my administration justice degree, one of my instructors was a serving homicide detective for the Riverside County. And he got promoted during the run of our semester. And we were like, oh, congratulations, Dean. You know, that's great. And he goes, and I kid you not, and I apologize for the language. He goes, this doesn't fucking mean anything. He goes, so it just makes me cooler when I go out. We're like, all right, whatever, man. Like, we were just so blown away by it. We were like thinking it was a big career accomplishment. He's like, no.
Now, do you write about any other criminal shows?
You know, the other one I do a lot of work on, but it's hard because it's so intermittent, is Cold Justice. I really like the work that they're doing on that with Kelly Siegler and Steve Spingola and those guys. So I have done a couple of pieces on that. Periodically, I'll do some other shows. People have approached me about covering. It really depends on the show because I have to believe in what I'm doing. There are a lot of true crime shows that are really sensationalized or pointless. My joke about is you're going to get to the point where it's going to be like people that were murdered on a Thursday afternoon in states on the, southeastern border because there's so many of them. So I do periodically, a lot of what I do is scripted procedurals too. I do a lot of those, which is really funny when you know how things work. And then I'm trying to watch Chicago PD and have to explain to all of my friends that all of this is vastly illegal and we're just going to ignore it. So yes, there we go. Two of my favorite people. Right there.
So that's Steve Spagnola, and he was one of the leads. I think he was the lead.
He's still there. The season finale is on Sunday, and he's working that case.
Well, but Steve was the lead on the Jeffrey Dahmer case, and so that's what his claim to fame was really. And I got to hang out with him down in San Antonio when I was speaking down there. I got to hang out with him for a little bit. And Steve ends up giving me a stack of business cards that are like that high, really. And he goes, "Here, hand these out to cities wherever you go." And I said, and I might have even told him this, but I was like, it's a good thing that Kelly wasn't there, or she might have needed a protective order against me because I'm a huge fan of her and the show. And if I had a chance to be on a show, that would be the one. I mean, I think it's absolutely fantastic what they do. I think it's great that you're writing some good articles about that, and that they have really done a lot with respect to cold cases, period. And Ronnie, I'm going to tell you this. This is a lesson that I'm going to do publicly right here in front of the world.
Okay.
Since you're going to be working cold case in a sense, you're going to be kind of a cold case guru back there. Then I'm going to assign you, and I'm going to tell you this is what you should do, and you should watch and just dive in and watch as many cold justice episodes as you possibly can, because it's really the blueprint on how to solve cases. We need to get Kelly on here. We need to figure that out. I could probably get Steve. I know I could get Steve on here. I'm pretty sure I could get Steve on here. But Kelly is somebody that I would really like to have on here, because I think that they just do a tremendous amount of good. And it's basically just dissecting cases. That's it.
Yeah.
Re-interviewing people. It's not rocket science. Go out and re-interview people. People are pissed at people now. They've gotten divorced. They've moved on. They've been scorned lovers. And at that point, they're like, oh yeah, now that you bring it up, let's I do remember something. And that's how it works.
That's a fantastic show. I do a lot of scripted procedurals. Mindhunter was a favorite of mine. Line of Duty is a favorite of mine. So whenever shows like that come back, I'll do a lot of that. And then I actually still keep my hand in a lot of fiction writing. I don't know if I'd mentioned this. Probably didn't, because it's a dorky thought in our conversation. But I do write a lot of crime fiction. And so in Homage, I'd say about half the detectives and FBI agents, because a lot of them are FBI agents that I write, are all named after people in your unit. I'm not even kidding. One of my favorite recurring characters is a New Jersey gang agent by the name of Scott Leatherman, believe it or not, who pops up periodically. His partner is Jason Kennedy, and their supervisor is Agent Brown. And it's funny only to me, because I will therefore put in references to things that have happened in the show. So if you watch the show, you understand then where the reference is from. But of course, no, I just do it for my own amusement. I do it for my own amusement and in homage to people, because I suck at naming characters anyway. So I'm like, let's just start naming my fake detectives and agents after real detectives. And
well, you have permission to use my full name. I'd be happy to have it in there. But Ronnie's looking for a book right now that he's
looking for a book here. So
I know he is.
An old sergeant of mine in narcotics or vice actually was Gary Neese, who's passed away, but he wrote some books, and he named a lot of characters after people that worked for him or he worked with, and he there's a character in there that's based on me. So that was a nice thing, and
it's a good book.
It is. It really is.
It's a good book. Yeah, I'll say that it is.
Interesting thing I think about what I do, because I think especially for someone with my anxiety issues and self-esteem issues that I deal with, you tend to feel like you're living in a void. You tend to feel like, I'm going to write this thing and we'll see if anybody reads it and whatever happens. I could have never predicted, going back to ringside seat, Jason, 8 years ago or whatever it is, watching you on TV, that we would now be friends with each other. Like, if you had told me that 8 years ago, I would have said, no way would I ever even be in the same room with this guy. And now I can look back on my career and say, look at all the things that we've done and all of the people that I've gotten to meet, through you and through coming up to Tulsa and the guy, Ken Gillespie in Mobile, I've gotten to talk to for a minute and just going, wow. And I think that's the thing I love, is just being like, I get to engage with people that I look up to and learn from those people. And I don't make a lot of money doing it. And you and I've talked about this, the hours are soul crushing at times, but I do it because I know I'm doing some good in the world. I can't put the bad guys away, but I can support the people that can.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, I think one of the things that and I think I have no doubt that Ronnie will agree with this, but I think that one of the things that we're down to earth. I mean, we all know we're just regular people. I mean, really, we're just detectives that are out there, and we have the opportunity to have been on TV and blessed many living rooms over the course of, for us personally, almost a decade, and more times than any other city. And I've been at other places without naming names of other people that happen to be on TV from time to time, but I've heard of others that are kind of complete douchebags, and it's like, you're nobody special, buddy. You know what I mean? And we have an obligation in this position, in my opinion, to be ambassadors to the profession, and for people to realize that we're actually good people. And I'm sorry that I said what I said, Mrs. Leatherman, because she's probably listening, and that was not appropriate. So probably, we're not mean people and bad people. We're actually decent people, and that's the way we should portray ourselves out there in public. But no, when you say that, hey, we're nobody special, really. I actually try to respond to everybody. I know Ronnie did. Ronnie just got a letter from somebody in prison, and talking about appreciating the fact that he actually. Well, what was that about, Ronnie? Remind me, because I know that I remember when you got it.
Yeah, Lacey sent me another one came in, but it's probably been, heck, I don't know at this point, 3 to 5 years ago. This guy who's been convicted of a murder up in, I think it was Missouri, wrote me a letter and basically said, "Hey, I'm innocent, and I'm looking. Will you look at my case?" And I wrote him back, and I'm like, "Man, I'm in Oklahoma. I'm a cop. No, that's not something I can do, right now." But I gave him several options of people he could talk to who could maybe help him out. And then here, whatever that was, maybe 2 weeks ago, Lacey sent me a message and was like, "Hey, you got a letter?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, open it up, whatever. I'm not over there." And so she sent me a picture of it, and I saw that it was from that inmate. And since then, he has been able to get a retired Kansas City homicide detective to look into his case. And basically it looks like it's getting reopened. And so, if he's, and he's told me, thank you for responding to him. And he had written thousands of letters and really no one responded to him. So he just appreciated that I responded to him. And if the guy really is innocent, then somebody needs to look at this, and he doesn't need to be in prison. I truly believe that. And, but if he is, and he's just playing games with people, then, shame on him for, causing even more harm for the person who was dead. But yeah, it was just, I would echo what Jason said. I'm nobody special. I mean, we've had the opportunity, like he said, a lot of people know me because of that show in large part. And yeah, if this guy, like I said, if he is innocent, then someone needs to look into that. It's crazy that he would be sitting in prison and has for decades. So yeah, I agree with Jason, and we have kind of an obligation to help anyone that we can. And I feel like we have both done that for the most part.
Yeah. So you speak, or go ahead if you were going to say something, Brittany.
No,
I don't want to cut you off. What I was going to say is, so that's one of the other shows. It's Cold Justice, is what you've been involved in. What are some other shows or areas and talk a little bit about your podcast too. Bring us to light on that.
The fun thing about my career is I have such a wide range of interests. And so the catch-all of it is I just have people on that inspire me. And then I get to learn about them and sit down with them and talk about the people that inspire them or the inciting incidents in their lives and learn a little bit more. Our very first episode was with my longtime friend, Philip Winchester, who was on Law & Order SVU for about a season and a half. He was the lead on Chicago Justice. We've known each other for, I think, 13, 14 years. And it was a great conversation because we've known each other for a long time. We know each other very well. We got to talk about how he accidentally got me fired from the wrong side of the country. So that was he got me fired in New York. I was not even in the state, which was great. So that was fun. I had Rob Floyd on from Bar Rescue, who is the most positive person I've ever met. I don't know how he does it. So I don't know who.
Wait. Who is that?
He's a fantastic mixologist.
Really?
Travels with Princess Cruises, does a lot of work for them. I think he's on a boat right now, actually, literally, according to Facebook. So he's an absolutely fantastic guy. I just bring on a lot of people and just say, tell me about the things that you're passionate about and the people that inspire you. And again, trying to platform those, because it all comes back to one thing for me. Like, I'll give you the short version of a very long story. I'm not supposed to be here right now, several times over at this point. But when I was born 3 months premature, and they basically said it's a coin flip whether you make it or not. And so when I came through that at a very early age, I had a conversation with myself and said, you better make this count. It wasn't, why am I here? It was, you better come up with a reason to be here. And that, for me, because I couldn't get into public service because of my disability, and the struggles of that, became, what am I good at? Oh, wait, I'm kind of good at this writing thing. That's going to be the reason for me being here. My goal in life then is to make a positive impact through the best skills that I have. I still think I want to go get a law degree at some point, but I think that boat has sailed somewhere off into the horizon. So that's what it all comes back to, is just whatever project I'm at, whoever comes to me, it's just what can I do? What is their story? How can I help? So that when I walk away from all this, I can say, look at the number of people whose lives I've changed, or people that I've gotten to think differently, or people that I've gotten to chase the things they wanted to do. And that's what it all comes down to.
That's why you're on this show. Those are the type of people that we want on this show. Inspirational, positive people that are moving mountains, and you're one of those people. Really, you don't even know it, how much you do for people. That's what's great, and you do. That's why you're here, and that's why we're telling you about how great you are. So I'm really, really impressed.
But before we came on, there was the talk of it being Mental Health Awareness Week. What's your like support of that, or what's kind of going on there that you deal with? It
comes from my personal struggles with that, which is something that I delved into through Jonathan Groff and through Mindhunter. I was diagnosed in college with post-traumatic stress disorder after I lost my best friend in a car accident, and so I never really dealt with that. And then because of the post Mindhunter research I did into my mental health, they finally diagnosed me with an anxiety disorder. And so I've been learning about that and kind of adjusting to that. And so I've really put an emphasis in the last 3 years on working on my mental health and helping other people be more cognizant of their mental health, because I didn't realize how important that is. It seems like a really naive thing to say, but I kind of grew up with like, oh, you're just weird. That's why you don't fit in. That's why you're not popular. You're just weird. You're just a little crazy, and then you realize there's nothing wrong with me. It's just, you have to understand the way, you actually have something that you can get help for, and you can help others. Like, the scariest, best thing I've ever done is to come out honestly and say, I have an anxiety disorder. And what do I do about it? And how can that be a positive thing too? Like, we kind of make fun of it. I don't know if any of you guys remember the hockey movie, The Cutting Edge, the ice skating movie. And there's the line in the movie where he says, every time before I go on the ice, I'd have to go backstage and throw up. And that's me. Every time before I do an interview, I have like 5 to 10 minutes of I just like freak out. But that's also how I know I care about what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a big advocate for embracing your own mental health and helping others with your mental health and sort of destigmatizing it. Don't always look at it as a negative, because even though I deal with these challenges every day, those challenges have informed me and in a lot of ways helped what I do. So it's really great to come into a room and be that vulnerable, but then also be like, the fact that I'm that vulnerable is what makes me good at what I do. Yeah. Because I'm not holding you at arm's length. I'm not trying to be anything to you, and so
you didn't have that feeling before you came on tonight?
No, because at this point I'm comfortable with you guys. Yeah, but yeah, when I walked into that room, a year and a half ago, there was a moment walking through that detective division door and just going, what am I about to do? Yeah. What am I about to? Please don't let me do something that I'm going to humiliate myself on. And then you walk into the room and realizing, like I said, when Beth and with you guys made me aware of the impact that I had, I said, I belong here. And that's what's been the great thing of that is the friendship that I built with you, Jason, coming out of that has been so cool, not just as a fan, but to be like, hey, I've earned my spot in this group of people that I look up to. I haven't seen you guys in person since then. Hopefully I'll see you later. But even just, I still talk to Beth and she tells me, hey, the guys read your last thing that you did and they all really liked it. And just knowing that if and when I come back, I have that place with you, or that I can reach out to you and just say, hey, what's going on? And we can have a conversation.
Absolutely. You can always reach out. Amazing. You've got my number. You know how to get in touch with me. Listen, we got to run. We've hit the wall. It happens. 54 minutes like that. I can't believe it. I want to tell everybody, thank you for being here. Ronnie, you got any last words? I mean, they've got to be really quick.
Brittany, thanks for being on, and thanks for all the stuff you're doing, and keep it up. And thanks for everybody for watching.
Yep. Thank you very much. I wanted to make one last thing is there was a deputy that happened to be killed in Boise, Idaho. He was killed April the 21st. His name was Deputy Tolban Bolter, and it was very moving about what had happened up in Boise. They've got a GoFundMe. He had a little kid at home, at least one, and they've got a GoFundMe. If you're looking to give $1 or a couple of dollars to his family, I'm sure that they would appreciate it, and I wanted to at least make a mention of that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. We've got to leave because Amanda's got to run to wiretap. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Take us out, Amanda.